Sa World Remit, naiintindihan namin ang iyong paglalakbay. Na minsan, kailangan lumayo upang makamit ang tagumpay. With ways to save more, when you send more, World Remit is here for you, so you can be there for them.
Okay, well, hello. Good evening ho sa inyong lahat, no? Happy Tuesday evening ho. Ayan, medyo na-miss ko ho kayo, no? Last week wala ho tayo. Tayo ho ay nasa ibang bansa ho, no? At na-miss natin yung ating programa do sa ating pinakamamahal na abogada, no? So, good evening. Sana happy Tuesday ho. Kung hindi happy on Tuesday nyo, gagawin namin. We're gonna make it a happy Tuesday tonight. Siyempre, ito na-miss ko, no? Hindi ko nakakita for about a week. We haven't seen each other for about a week because we were away in sunny Spain. Eh ngayon, balik naman tayo sa cold and how would you ayoko namang drab o hindi naman ganoon eh. Masaya ho rito sa UK maski malamig, no? Patutunayan ho ng ating abogada ho yan. So, siyempre hindi ko na patatagalin, no? Na-miss no ho siya, no? I am sure you didn't miss me. It was more of our lovely attorney, no? Na-miss ninyo, hindi ho ako. Definite ako diyan. Okay, mga kaibigan, siyempre I'd like to welcome on the show. Actually, show niyo to dahil siya talaga naman ang she is the one actually who is the expert and the reason and the being reason and the being, so to speak, that we have this program, Legal Advice Corner. So welcome mo sa program. Mga kaibigan, ito po yung managing partner here is a managing partner. Napipilitan ako mag-English. I'm forced in a way, not really compelled to talk in English a bit, no? But I'm sure I'm going to be having this nosebleed later on. Pero syempre, no, it's normal. Meron tayong makakasama, pero si attorney magpapakilala. Pero bago niya ipakilala yon, syempre, pakikilala natin yung managing partner ng Deo Valente Solicitors. Mga kaibigan, the one and only, the brains and beauty, Attorney DANNA QUINTO. Attorney, good evening sa iyo. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday, Mr. Laragan. Ako, hindi lang ako ang na-miss. Pati ikaw, miss na miss ka din namin. Welcome back to, not so sunny London. Not so warm London. But it's okay. You know, we're glad to have you back. Ikaw ang sunshine sa amin. Welcome back.
Wow.
Sorry, everyone. We're a bit late because
Yes.
may technical things lang earlier. We're still at 6 p.m. Normal time slot, but meron lang minor technical issues that for some reason has resolved on its own, which is a bit strange today. But there we are. Welcome back, Mr. Laragan. You were the sunshine of our lives. Ikaw ang sunshine namin dito sa programang to. So welcome back.
Well, thank you. Nag-cross sa mind ko yan. Nasasabihin mo sabi ko, mga sunshine siguro. Baka di ba? O nga. Dahil nga, it's really sunny in Spain. That's the pluses, the best parang thing about Spain, the sun. It shines 300 plus days a year, no? I forgot kung how many number of days. Oo, na talagang summery doon. At dito, pagbalik ko, talagang nag-uulan, makulimlim. In fact, tong weekend yata, was it Saturday? Or even Sunday, Saturday, makulimlim dito sa London, no?
Yeah.
Oo, and even in Kent, in mga Sussex, no? Oy, kumusta? I missed you. Anong a couple of weeks, I saw some photos of by the way, who do we have? May guest tayo for tonight yata, no? Di ba? May sino ipapakilala mo and she's gonna be talking about?
She's going to be talking. Yes, we do have a topic. She's going to be talking about introduction to wills and probate or private client So very,
Okay.
very a very well-regarded team member of mine, and very hardworking. Pakilala ko na ba, Mr. Laragan? Pakilala ko na o
Ah, pakilala,
teaser muna? Teaser
teaser muna.
muna.
Oh, siguro pakilala natin because she's actually very beautiful, very pretty, no? It's
Absolutely.
gonna be both of you are you good to look at. Ako siguro ang spoiler dito sa show na to. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, maganda tong brains and beauty to. She's I think 24 years old. And your trainee
Yeah.
announcer, trainee solicitor, di ba? Diyan sa
Yeah.
Dayo Volantes. Oh, you work as a
Yeah.
trainee sa amin nung araw, trainee announcer. So yeah, trainee
Yeah.
solicitor, and which is good, no? And you said
Yeah.
she's hardworking. Wow.
Very
That's,
hardworking, very competent, a, a team player, talagang team player, very supportive of everyone around her. So she's well loved by everyone. At
wow.
talagang proud kami to call her our team member. So
Sige.
I'm personally proud to to be able to work with her and to be able to form part of her career. So yeah, without further ado, let's bring her
Yeah,
in,
let's
Mr.
just
Lana.
introduce
Let's
her,
bring her in
tease
kasi
her. Yeah. Sige.
yeah, teaser
Okay,
lang ba?
makita
Teaser
nyo.
lang
So you
ba?
can see who this
Yes,
lady is,
pakilala
di ba?
muna natin. Yes, let's bring her
Yeah,
in.
let's just
So
introduce her
welcome to
first.
the show. Yes, welcome to the show, Farida Ahmed. She normally says hello sometimes sa mga comments natin. I don't know if we'll be able to get a
Oh,
glimpse of her. Yes, Farida, are you still there?
yes, ladies and gentlemen, yes, the hardworking trainee solicitor at Deo Valente Solicitors. Ito, like I said, she's very pretty, and I'm sure you'll agree with me. Sige, ladies and gentlemen, Farida, how do you pronounce your surname? Is it Ahmed or Ahmed?
Ahmed, yeah.
Ahmed, because sometimes I would hear some
Yeah.
people say with a K, Ahmed or something like that. Hi, good evening,
Yeah, there
Farida.
she is. Yeah, there she is.
Magandang
There
gabi
she
to you.
is.
Good evening means magandang gabi in our language, the Filipino language. Have you ever met a Filipino before, Farida?
No, not apart from Dana.
Oh, right. Wow, okay. So I'm Filipino number 2 then. Fantastic. Filipino number 2. Okay. Well, you're so young, very, very young. And later on, you're going to talking about wills and probate, right? Private
Yeah,
client.
absolutely.
And I'm sure you're going to be ready for that. So, ladies and gentlemen, watch out later on. That's going to be the topic, wills and probate. And she's going to discuss it later on. So, we're gonna call you later on. We'll just have a chit chat with. But why don't we ask her? Okay, first of all, why did you take up law? Why did you desire or ambition to become
Final
a
interview.
lawyer? Yes. Why is it?
So it's a fairly standard answer. I wish I could give you kind of a very unique answer, but it's fairly standard. Work experience in I think it was year 12, and we had various different professionals come in. So there was a solicitor, there was a barrister that came in, police officer, there was a doctor, I think there was a teacher, just a few kind of different professions that came in, and I just happened to sit in on the solicitor during her speech. She did a little talk about what she does on a day-to-day, and that really inspired me, and then decided to apply for law. Did it local in University of Bedfordshire, ended up doing quite well in it, and then I just did my LPC, and the rest is history. Ended up at DB Solicitors, and the rest is history.
All right. So in the Philippines, we call it like a career week when you're in senior high,
Yeah,
like
it was
a fourth
very
year high school. So you would
Yeah,
the school would invite different, a doctor, an accountant, a lawyer,
yeah, very similar to that, yeah.
So that particular lawyer, do you still remember her name or his name? And
Oh, I don't
whatever
remember. I remember the family solicitor, but it was a few years ago, and my memory's not that great anymore. So
all right. No, because he was describing a day in his life, or is it a man or a
yeah,
woman?
it was just really inspirational. It was a female,
A
it
female,
was just
okay.
really inspirational. She just talked about her experience and how she helps people on a day-to-day, kind of what her duties are, and I think it just really touched me. And I've just been stuck in law ever since. The rest is history, like I said.
Wow, very good. Wow, it's like
Charlene.
Edgar's daughter, yeah, di ba?
Yeah, very
Oh,
similar. Very
yeah,
similar.
she's-
and
she's-
Charlene too.
Charlene.
Marlene,
she
if you
had
remember.
a very similar experience. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
wow.
she was here. I think a few weeks ago, Mr. Laragan. I think Charlene was saying the same experience as well.
Right, right. Okay, Faria, we're gonna have you in a little bit. We'll just have this greetings from our viewers. No, so we're gonna be ready later. Huh? We're gonna call you. So we're gonna
Perfect.
yeah have a little chit chat with Dana at the moment. Okay, so salamat. We'll see you in a bit. Mga kaibigan ha, ayan ha, si Farida Ahmed. Ayun. Okay, attorney, ayan. Ito yung first part natin. Oh, by the way, of those of you who are watching us for now, medyo we started kind of late. For some reason, it happens. I don't know if you're aware of this, attorney. 2 or 3 of the biggest servers in the world are one, Amazon. Okay, they provide, yes, it's called AWS. And if Netflix is down, for example, it means that Amazon is down. In other words, because their servers, their video servers are dependent on Amazon. Now there's another competitor,
Okay.
Microsoft. Microsoft created their own same thing to compete with Amazon. Amazon Web Services, yata, AWS is how we call it.
Yeah.
So a long time ago, when I was trying to start a TV, I was thinking of doing a TV network for the Filipinos here in the UK and Europe. So I was trying to create my own server, and my server was dependent on the Amazon AWS services. So if I were down, for example, if I were down, Netflix would also be down because both of us would be dependent on Amazon Web Services. So,
On
yeah.
Amazon.
Yeah.
Understood.
Understood. Yeah. So for
So
some
then-
reason,
well, then
even
down
Zoom
to
down,
earth,
even Zoom, some
Yeah.
other services yata
Zoom's
were
having
down.
problems then.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So all the communication networks are having problems. Zoom, what's the other one? Yung ano ba yung ginagamit natin? Isa pa yung ginagamit ng everybody. I forgot. I forgot.
Messenger or WhatsApp.
No, there's another one. There's another one that we
Messenger.
use for broadcast na alam ni Direk Pao yan. Baka lang.
StreamYard.
Ano, Direk, sige,
or-
sumagot ka na nga. Ano yung ginagamit na isa?
Direct pa.
StreamYard. Ayun, StreamYard.
That's
Tapos
right.
Zoom yata may konting problema. So,
May
ayan.
konting problema
Oo.
din nila.
Oy, attorney, bago natin pinakilala si Farida, how was your couple of weeks? Mukhang marami kang mga niluluto, no? Parang very delectable. Ano to? Ano ba tong, ano to? What is this?
And that's a pokeball. So parang kinilaw na salmon at tuna. Favorite kaya, one of
Ay,
my
naku, gusto ko yan.
favorite. Sarap, no? Masarap
Salmon
yung
and tuna,
salmon.
no? Oo.
I think generally, hindi ko sinasabi masarap na yung dish ko. I think generally yung fish na salmon at tuna, sa mga Pilipino, very talaga yan, very popular na choice of fish. Madami kasi sa atin, tuna at salmon, sanay tayo sa,
Yeah.
lalo na tuna. Yeah.
Jensen is the tuna capital of the Philippines. General
Correct,
Santos,
yes.
diba? General Santos. So,
Yeah, I grew up near
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
Ayan naman.
Yeah. Ito.
Palabok. May
Palabok.
smoke bangus. Yung nasa taas po niya ay smoke
Uy.
bangus at ang paborito kong prawns. So,
Ayun.
prawns with smoked bangus, palabok. Kumain lang ako, Mr. Lalago.
You prepare this, ha? You prepare this. Pagka nag-prepare ka, ano yan, isang kainan lang o may parang leftover pa?
May leftover naman. It's normally big portions. So normally about 2 servings. Mga 2 servings
okay.
yung mga yan. So it's good.
Ayan.
It's good. Yan. Kumain. Kamusta po kayo? Kamusta naman ang Spain? How was your vacation?
Okay naman. We went to a place called, we now sort of went around Murcia. Spain is composed of, di ba, mga
Murcia,
regions.
yeah.
Regions. In fact,
That's right, yeah.
people might not know it, but Spain is actually a new country, similar to Italy. Italy kasi these are all
Okay.
kamukha ng Venice. It used to be a Republic of Venice. And then siguro mga 40, so kailan yun, saka lang nabuo yung mga yan. These used to be separate republics, ganyan, or separate mga countries or ano. Yeah, Spain is something new yan. Hindi talaga in the olden days pa yan. May mga kingdom siya na Kingdom of Navarra o Navarre, Ganyan, may... So, mga ano yan, but these are all regions. So, we were in the region called Murcia, although we're close to, ano pangalan ito? Valencia region, and then there's
Valencia.
Murcia region. Maganda na, attorney. It's really nice. The place that we went to, yung Mar Menor, I really enjoyed it. Maganda yung place. Lalo na kung talagang heavy ng mga tourists siguro. Maganda yung place. Really, parang have you been to Benidorm?
No, I haven't been to Benidorm. Hindi pa po. Ano lang, Malaga lang. I've only been to
Malaga.
Malaga.
Okay. Ito parang mini Benidorm, pero mas sa akin mas okay. Oy, teka muna. Yung mga greetings natin, batiin na natin. Sino sa palagay mo ang unang bumati sa atin? Who do you think is our first na babate, no? Bumate. But before we call
bago ko hulaan yan, we want to say congratulations kasi mga supporters in the audience. Edgar and Irene Duay's daughter, Mia, just graduated today. So congratulations to Mia.
Congratulations.
From
Mia.
all of us here. Yes, congratulations, Mia. So yes, and congratulations to the proud parents. No doubt.
Siyempre.
Diba, pag sa atin, nakatapos.
Mia.
Proud ng pamilya. So well done, Mia.
Well done. And syempre, yung Duay family is a very good friend of ours, no? Naging kaibigan na natin because of this ating media thing that we have, no? Imagine mo, if you remember the very first day when we had you and he was saying, oy, si attorney, excited DQ, ano man yung tawag sa'yo si Hyper DQ, sabi niya, Hyper DQ. Oh, so yeah, those were the days. So many. Yes, and he's gonna teach us a lot of things. So Mia, congratulations, and to the parents, tama ka. Okay. O sige, sino ngayon ang unang-una nating babati sa atin? Sige, let's have a guess. Sino hula mo, attorney?
Sa tingin ko si Oliver Fernandez ngayon. I don't know, I just have the gut feeling kasi parati ko sinasabi si Marian. Sa tingin ko si Oliver Fernandez ngayon.
Okay.
I don't know.
Si Marian is Marician Galicia Paner ba? Yan ba si Marian?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. O sige, doon naman ako kay Marian Galicia Paner. Okay. Let's see who's greeted us first tonight. Let's acknowledge. Yes, go ahead please, Direk. Uy! Oliver Fernandez. Very good, attorney. Oliver Fernandez. Yay! Pakibasa nga. Hindi, bilib ako rito nasa Amerika yan, and yet his heart and his mind is here with us, no? Kumbaga, kasama natin. Oh.
Exactly.
Sige, go ahead,
Absolutely.
attorney.
From Oliver, happy Tuesday to one and all. We are having a rain-washed week here in Washington. I hope everyone's warm and cozy where they are. Looking forward to tonight's very interesting topic. Happy Tuesday, Oliver Fernandez. Keep warm, keep safe, John. And he's got YouTube din kasi mas maganda ang resolution
Tama.
sa YouTube. Yun eh.
Direct, naka 1080 ba tayo? Naka 1080 ba tayo sa YouTube?
1080.
Okay,
Bago ko
direct.
yung resolution sa YouTube, dapat pala chinay ko muna kay Direct. Thank you, Direct Pao. Nga pala kay Direct Pao na nag-ayos ng setup.
Yes, we have 1080 tayo. So, ibig sabihin, talagang super high definition tayo. So, that's very good. Okay,
Thank you, Direct.
Sino yan?
Sino sunod?
Sino yung susunod natin? Hindi, baka fanfare. Sino hula mo? Sige, hula mo, attorney.
Oliver yun. Hulaan na rin natin.
Hula pa rin. Sige, siguro parang may fanfare yata nakaredy si fanfare, si Direk.
Si Marian siguro.
Marian Galicia Paner. Sige, tingnan natin. Marian Galicia Paner. Sige, tingnan nga. Taga-UK ba ang ating, kung taga-Washington yung una? Taga saan ang ano? Ooh!
Lisbon, Portugal. Good
wow,
afternoon.
mabuhay ka,
Mabuhay ka, Sanchez Grace.
Grace, thank you very much. I mean, it's really, truly parang amazing na, wow, from Washington State and from Lisbon, okay mabuhay kayo, no? Thank you. Tuloy ho kayo, kabayan. Yes. No, welcome ho rito sa United Kingdom sa Legal Advice Corner ni Attorney DANNA Quinto. Si Ma'am Cora. Magandang gabi.
Ma'am Cora, hello. Magandang gabi, Sir Sonny, Attorney DANNA and all. Ma'am Cora Carsola.
Mabuhay.
Ayan.
Mabuhay kayo. Pwede ho kami sa sa YouTube, YouTube na ho tayo, hanggat maaari, kung po pwede. Sige, go ahead.
Edgardo Cagacian, ang original author ng ating Happy
Oh.
Tuesday. He's saying, good evening, Mr. Laragan and Attorney Dana. Happy Tuesday to everyone. He's going home from Canary Wharf and Northern Line. Is not that busy going south. This is Edgardo reporting. So tune in.
Wow,
Ito yung
loud
ating
and
legal advice
clear.
corner. Traffic
report.
update and tube update reporting.
Ayan,
So sa lahat ng mga
traffic
nagko-commute
update. Tama. Tube update natin. Thank you,
Uwi na.
Edgardo, ha? So, walang masyadong
Thank
tao ba?
you.
Hindi ba masyadong ano?
Yeah.
Okay,
And
alright.
here's
Next.
our proud father,
Oh,
ang ating
father.
proud father, Edgar Duay. Magandang gabi, Attorney DQ, and legendary Sonny Laragan. At sa mga taga-subaybay, Happy Tuesday, DQ. Happy ang Tuesday. Pagkandyan si Attorney Diwata
Diwata.
ako. Naku, napaka-producer naman yan, Edgar.
Ang mga diwata pala magaganda, no? Talagang very beautiful and very pretty, di ba? Pag mga diwata.
yes.
So, Edgar, congratulations ha sa graduation ni Mia. Kudos sa inyong dalawang mag-asawa.
Mai daw po.
Ah.
Si Mai Duay, hindi na Mia. Mai Duay.
Si Mai. Si Mai pala. Si Maya. Mai. For her graduation. Ayun.
Mai. Baby kulit
Oh.
niya. Mai for her graduation.
Okay,
He's
si
so
Mai.
happy talaga. Nakaka-proud yan.
Wow.
Well done.
Well done,
Very
well
well done.
Oy, from Portugal, we go to Vienna, Austria.
Vienna.
Wow.
Enrico Rojas is saying greetings from
Kilala
Vienna,
ko yan.
Austria. Vienna,
Kilala ko
Austria.
yan, attorney. I interviewed him.
Kilala
Enrico
ko.
Mabuhay, He's one of those para pioneering na lang masasabi natin. Nurse yan sa Austria.
Okay, mabuhay po kayo.
So, mabuhay ka. Mabuhay.
Frontliner.
All right.
Ayan.
And-
All caps, Mr. Laragan. All caps tayo. So, okay ang ating Ma'am
Ayan
Emeline
yan.
Rafael. Good evening daw,
Emeline.
Sonny and Attorney Dana and everyone. Nakikita ko yung social media post ni Ma'am Emeline Rafael. Napaka-travelista traveler to Nakita ko sa tumuturist sa Abu Dhabi pa rin ba, no?
Yes,
Abu Dhabi pa rin.
I'll
That's
ask some help
right.
from her because I'd like to... Croatia ba yung huling pinuntahan niya, attorney? Croatia?
Yes. And yung
Okay.
napakahabang
Herzegovina? Bosnia-Herzegovina?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Yeah, I want to travel. We'd like to go all over Europe this time, and I haven't been to Greece. I want to try yung Croatia, Bosnia-Herzegovina. I've always been to Western Europe. I want to try yung Eastern Europe naman. I've been to Hungary. I've been to
Yeah.
so far. Yun pa lang yata Eastern European country. Poland, napunta na ako. Lithuania, napunta na ako.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yes, okay.
We've got greetings for you, Farida. The Filipino
Oh, si
people
Farida.
are giving warm hello.
Ma'am Cora's
Hello,
greeting.
training.
Wow,
Farida.
Farida. Di ba maganda, Ma'am Cora? Ang ganda-ganda niya, no? Napaka-pretty. Parang artistahin,
Okay.
talagang artista. Oo.
Artistahin.
Ayan.
Edgar
Edgar Duay.
Yan.
Sila, nagbatian na.
Edgar Duay. Nagro-roll call na si Edgar kay Ma'am Cora at Emeline Rafael.
Ayan,
Good evening.
yan.
Hello,
Darling
darling
Mai.
mine. First
Edgar's
baby,
baby.
ayun. Everyone's celebrating. Dito po tayo kasi remote support bubble natin to. At almost family. It's almost like a family, isn't it? We celebrate birthdays.
Yes.
We celebrate graduation. We celebrate momentous occasion. Ingat-ingat tayo. Kumbaga, we wish everyone safe travel sa mga nagbabakasyon. It feels like a good community. So tuloy po kayo. Sama po kayo sa amin dito.
May mga tao mahihayin, attorney. In my many years of broadcasting, no, at mga barrio fiestang pinupuntahan ko, we have a lot of mga silent viewers, and hindi man sila nagme-message yan, pero nanonood sila sa atin. Kaya't kung makasalubong mo sa isang daan, in anywhere, sa daanan or lugar, may mga kakilala sa iyo. I was standing in Paris, France with my daughter, no? At may lumapit sa akin, di ba ikaw si Sonny Laragan? So, I'm sure yan. And in the many barrio fiestas that we had here, lagi may lumalapit sa akin, silent viewer daw sila or silent listener.
Silent viewer.
Ganyan.
Silent listener. Yun.
Okay, sino watching from? Oy, asan na ba?
Si Ma'am Emeline Rafael. Ayan, watching from Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi?
Yes.
Okay.
Abu Dhabi si Ma'am
Alright.
Emeline Rafael.
Uy, ang tagal na nito
So,
Good.
Florita Morante. Good evening, attorney and Sir Sonny.
Yeah.
From ano year? I suppose.
From ano yan? From the Isle of Dogs ba yan? Isle of parang area na yun. No, one of si Florita Morante, si Ben yung kanyang anak, the family, nakalimutan. Yan ang one of my first listeners sa radio 10, 11 years ago. And they're still there. Yeah. Si Ben nagkaroon ng award kay Prince Charles na nakapunta siya ng Buckingham Palace, no? Scout yan. He's been awarded, no? Mahusay. Tapos nagta-taekwondo. Taekwondo yata, di ba, Flor? Ayan, no? Yan.
Mabuhay ka, Ben. Mabuhay ang family. Mabuhay sa proud mom, Florita Morante.
Si Flor. Oo, yeah. Mabuhay kayo. Mabuhay, ha? Nice at nagparamdam kayo. It's nice talaga to know you. Yan ang anak niya, si Ben. Anyway, sige, yan. Okay, May Tigbaw.
Yeah, May Tigbaw. Ganda naman ng autumn na profile picture, May. Good evening, Attorney BQ and Sir Sonny. Watching from Exeter, Devon. Ang ganda ng profile picture. Ganda.
Ayan.
Edward Duay, salamat sa pagbate. Having graduation dinner while catching you all. Ayun.
While watching, attorney. Yes. Oy, May, congratulations, happy graduation, tama. Virginia
Happy
Lona.
Graduation. Virginia Lona, good evening, Attorney
From
Donna.
Sweden.
And Sonny, have a blessful Tuesday. Greetings from Gothenburg. Mabuhay and stay safe.
From Gothenburg, Sweden. Ito naman, nasa Belgium. Punta tayong Belgium ngayon.
Belgium. Yes, good evening, Kuya Sonny and beautiful Attorney Donna from Darwin. Alam niyo ba, Mr. Laragan, si Darwin at ako, we lived almost one street apart in our lives. I don't think nasa St. Albans siya.
One street
years ago,
apart?
not in the same year.
One street apart?
Not in the same year. One street apart. One street opposite each other lang.
Yeah.
But not in the same year. Hindi kami nagkita, but we lived at houses which are literally opposite lang ng street from each other sa St. Albans. Hindi lang kami nagkita ng time, pero doon kami the same area.
Ang St. Albans ba ano ba? Hertfordshire, Bedfordshire? Hertfordshire. All right, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
pero magkatabi lang yan. Magkatabi lang ang Hertfordshire at Bedfordshire.
Magkatabi lang.
Okay, that's nice. That's nice to know, no? Ayan. Pero ngayon, based na siya sa Belgium. So, kita mo naman in different,
about 10 years. Dun yung place na yun, I lived 10 years ago. I think she lived there years and years ago.
Years ago.
Nakakakuha lang kasi, alam mo yun, it's a small world. Ayan, si Florita, now in Kingston University. Si Ben siguro. Si Ben
yan ang mukha ng anak niya. Yan si Ben. That face that you see, that's Ben. And he was a taekwondo something. And then, scout siya. And multi-awarded siya as a scout. And he did the fundraising. Pinoy Radio UK, we received, I don't know how much, 1,000 or 2,000 pounds fundraising. I couldn't remember exactly now. When yung mga bagyo, na-feature ako sa BBC, na-feature ako sa mga radio, television, Sky News. I was on Sky News because of the fundraising that we did, and very instrumental sila, Florita. So Florita tuloy si Flor. Okay.
Mabuhay po kayo.
Mabuhay. Corazon Bracho.
Corazon Bracho, good evening, attorney. You're so beautiful. Nako, nakakataba ng puso. Thank you so much. God bless you. Okay na, tapos na show. Thank you. Okay na ako.
Parang si Attorney Lira, pagka mga Thursdays, talagang nag-i-enjoy siya dahil yun nga, di ba, yung mga compliments, di ba? Sabi nga, kita mo, mga ganyan. So, thank you, Thank you very much, Corazon Bracho. Thank you. At saka totoo naman, di ba? Minsan kasi, tatanungin mo sarili mo, maganda nga ba ako o guwapo ba ako? Diba? Pag sinabing beautiful attorney, you can feel talaga. Pag sinabing guwapo si Sonny, parang nag-aalangan ako, diba? But that's good. Thank you for the kind words, no? At saka bumabati kay Farida. Thank you rin, Imagine si Ma'am Cora.
Thank you for making...
Thank you for the greetings to Farida, no? And
Thank
I'm
you so
sure
much.
because she's seen her, and now she's gonna tell us about this. I know Wilson Probate, di ba, attorney? No,
Mission Probate, yes, that's right,
oh,
yes.
ay, sino ito?
Oh, yun, si Lizzie Hobbs. Lizzie Hobbs is saying, good evening, attorney, gorgeous Donna, and guwapo, Sir Sonny.
sabi ko
Happy
na
Tuesday.
ba? Hindi
Ayun,
ko pa.
guwapo.
Wow,
Okay
naku
na
naman.
to your
Thank
show.
you, thank you, ha. Parang sumasaya, ba? It's nice to have a smile, di ba? Yung mga cares and worries and whatever, they fly away, no? Pagka ganyan, di ba?
I melt
Maraming
away.
salamat,
That's
maraming
right.
salamat. Oh, wait, may kasama
Oh,
kami
yeah.
ha. It's gonna be Farida who's gonna be talking about yung Wilson Probate. Oh, so okay, attorney. Oh, okay na tayo. Siguro we'll have a short break, and when we come back,
Yes.
you're gonna reintroduce Farida. And guys,
Exactly.
listen, because it's very important. Who knows? No, it's important. You might need this, no? Lalo na mga wills and probate. Kailangan din, maski paano, importante may wills, no? Okay. So we're gonna have a short break, and when we come back, me and attorney will be back. We will be we're gonna be reintroducing the beauty and brains, no, a very
Absolutely.
hardworking, no, industrious,
Correct.
very talented, I guess, no, dahil at a very young age, the mentor. Are you the mentor? She's the mentee, right?
One of the mentors. She's
One of the
a few
mentors.
mentors.
Yes.
One of the
oh.
mentors. Yeah,
Ayan,
we
and
make
you're
sure that
speaking
we're
highly of her,
training
so which means she's a very good mentee. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna be having a break. Magbe-break lang ho kami, and when we come back, when Attorney Dana and I come back, we'll reintroduce to you those who might have missed her at the initial part of the program. We're gonna be having one of the staff of Deo Volante Solicitors to talk about wills and probate. Tama ba yan?
Correct.
Okay.
Absolutely correct.
Wag ko kayong alis. Ikaw ang attorney magsabi niya, wag ko kayong alis, kami magbabalik.
Ayan. Huwag po kayong aalis. Kami ay magbabalik. And once we return, we have Farida Ahmed with us. I'll see you shortly.
Mula doon hanggang ngayon, serbisyong mapagkakatiwalaan, serbisyong maaasahan pagdating sa inyong mga padalang balikbayan boxes. Dito ka na sa Forex Cargo. Sa presyong kayang-kaya ng bulsa, sigurado ka pa sa inyong padala. Forex Cargo. Dahil kailangan makarating. Call 0208-813-7064. O, ano pang inaantay niyo mga kabayan? Tayo na sa Forex Cargo.
%100% all natural, tasty, healthy, versatile. 4 unique flavors. Taste a real sauce. Galettos.
May problema ka ba sa landlord mo? Baka AV ka na ni Kuya. May problema sa mga kapitbahay, sa trabaho. O kaya naman kay Mister o kay Mrs. Away tungkol sa mana, mga may utang, mga aksidente, daing o laban sa ospital or sa NHS. Harassment? O baka naman may stalker ka na gusto mong ireklamo? Punta na sa DV Solicitors para matulungan ka pagdating sa mga litigations at iba pang mga legal concerns. DV Solicitors at 2nd floor, Howard House, St. John Street, Bedford, MK42 0DJ. Tumawag sa 01234-350-244 or 01234-225-188 o kaya naman mag-email sa d.quinto@dvsolicitors.com. Visit our website at www.dvsolicitors.com.
Sa World Remit, naiintindihan namin ang iyong paglalakbay. Na minsan, kailangan lumayo upang makamit ang tagumpay. With ways to save more, when you send more, World Remit is here for you, so you can be there for them.
Okay, welcome back sa ating programa, no? Dito po sa Legal Advice Corner. Ako po si SONNY LARAGAN, siyempre ang ating star of the show. Kasama ho natin. Walang iba kundi si Attorney DANNA Quinto. Attorney, good evening once again to you. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday, Mr. Laragan. Welcome back to the show, everyone. Tuloy po kayo. And meron tayong guest din today. Meron tayong, ano bang guest sa Tagalog?
Panauhing, guest of honor, panauhing pandangal. Panauhin siguro. Pero isang panauhing abogado. Abogado na pala. Abogado, di ba? Tama ba?
Trainee solicitor.
Spanish, trainee solicitor, no? Ito po yung...
Exactly.
Ayan ho.
Exactly.
Okay, so she's gonna be talking... Ikaw na, you introduce her now and what she's gonna be talking about. Sige. Ako, I've got pen and paper already. Ready na ako. So guys, papel na kayo. Ready na. Sulat na. Notes. We're gonna be taking notes.
Exactly. Kahit ako din. Handa na natin ang pen and paper natin, guys. Because we
started from Career Week, inspired, and here she is now. Who knows? Di ba? She's gonna go places in terms of, excited na. I'm so excited. Sige, let's, parang ano to parang celebrity guest natin. Because imagine, she's a trainee solicitor. She's gonna be talking about a topic for tonight, legal topic. And yet, she's pleasing to the eyes, di ba?
Yeah.
Imagine, it's nice. What if you have somebody who looks,
we don't discriminate, Mr.
Diba? Diba parang listening to the person, unlike our very special trainee solicitor guest tonight, you would really love to listen to her because looking at her, parang wow, mesmerized ka na. O sige, let us now, sige, introduce mo na, attorney.
Exactly. Well, much more than that, she's very, very competent, very hardworking, proper team player, talaga, very supportive of everyone around her, and just a lovely, delightful person to be around it. It's such a pleasure to work with her. And ika nga natin lahat, she's beauty and brains. So we welcome back trainee solicitor Farida Ahmed, who will talk about wills and probate. Farida?
Good evening, Farida. Welcome back.
Good evening, Farida. Welcome back.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Oh, look at the smile, talaga na. Look at the smile. Parang akong the beauties and the beast, no? Diba? So, okay. Sige, Farida, so you're gonna be, sige, it's a Spanish, it's a Tagalog word. Okay, let's, how do you, sige?
Sige is, moving forward.
Moving forward. Okay, moving on. Okay.
Moving on. You were talking about, you will talk about wills and probate, so take it away.
Take it away, Farida.
Right,
Yes.
thank you so much for that amazing introduction. I don't know who DANNA was talking about, but I'm Farida, a trainee solicitor at DV Solicitors. Currently working in private client, and I'm assisting DANNA with some family matters as well. I've been doing private client for the past 18 months or so, I want to say. Really enjoying it. I think it's a really good area of law to not only work in, but specialise in. So just going to do a little bit of an introduction because I could literally sit here and talk about wills and probate all day and all night. So I'm just going to do a little bit of an introductory session today, and then I'll be more than, if you guys were willing, I'd be more than happy to come back and we can talk a bit more in detail. But so it's a legal document which a person makes and expresses their wishes, so what they want to happen to their estate, their property, their assets, etc. once they pass away. So there's two types of wills. Essentially, there's a single will, which is it's kind of in the name for a single person. They can make a single will, and then there's also mirror wills, whereby if you were married, if you were in a civil partnership, spouses, civil partners, if you were cohabiting, then we'd advise you to make mirror wills. So essentially, both parties would have their own will, but the terms of the will be mirrored. So what normally happens is husband and wife. Let's give a scenario: husband and wife. Upon the husband passing, his estate passes to the wife. From the wife's passing, it would pass to the husband, vice versa. And then, once they're both gone, then it would pass to the children. So it'd be separate wills. They'd each have their separate will, but the terms of the will would be mirrored. So that's where the name mirror wills comes from. So talking about wills and probate, I was kind of umming and ahhing a little bit. I thought, what should I talk about? I was kind of having second thoughts and doubts. But wills and probate, it is definitely a taboo subject. It's a very sensitive topic. I appreciate that. I understand a lot of people don't like to talk about it. They don't like to talk about death. But unfortunately, as bad as it sounds and as harsh as it is inevitable. Phil said to me, and this is something that stuck with me, it's a harsh reality that the two things that are guaranteed in life are, unfortunately, death and taxes. So regardless of whether, it's a pleasant conversation to have, an unpleasant, uncomfortable conversation to have, we are all going to die eventually. So I think it's really important to at least think about, getting your affairs in order and trying to make life as easy for your loved ones as you can after you pass. So that's just a brief kind of overview about what a will is. I know people don't really like talking about it. They don't like talking about death. They don't like talking about a will. People think that I'm going to live forever, but unfortunately, we all know that's not the case, and it is a very sensitive. It's almost a taboo subject to talk about. But that's what we're here for. We're here to raise awareness because, unfortunately, for the people that don't make wills, it does leave. It makes it a lot more complicated for their loved ones after they pass. So. In terms of making a will, there's a few things that you need to think about. So every client that comes to me, I always say to them, think about your executors. Think very carefully about the executors that you're going to appoint. So these are the people that are going to make sure that the terms of your will are carried out. And they're going to have the responsibility of administering your estate. Now, what we normally say is kind of one primary executor. So it can be, if it's husband and wife scenario, you can appoint each other, close family member, close friends. Or you can appoint alternatively, you can appoint professionals. So if you've got local solicitor, if you've got an accountant or, another professional body, DB solicitors are happy to be executors for clients as well, because I think sometimes it can be quite overwhelming. It's a responsibility, comes with some liability. So I think unless you've got someone that you really trust and someone that is kind of willing and up for the role, I think it's very important as well to have a conversation with your potential executor. We've got a case on at the moment, DANNA knows, whereby the executor and beneficiary, the relationship got a little bit soured, it turned a bit bitter, the executor and beneficiary are no longer on talking terms, and it does make it a little bit more in terms of administering the estate, because the executor has to kind of follow the process. They have to make sure that the relevant forms are completed, the relevant notifications are made, HMRC is informed, probate registry is informed, and they have to sign off forms. And if the property, in our case, is going to the beneficiary, if the executor and beneficiary, they hate each other, then it can cause some issues further down the line. So definitely have a conversation with your potential executor, because sometimes people don't want to take on that responsibility, and we have had cases a lot more recently where people don't want to be the executor because it is a big responsibility. And so it is worth having that conversation with your potential executor, just obviously keeping them in the loop and letting them know that, look, I'm contemplating making a will. What do you feel? Would you be up to my executor? So just have these open conversations. So at least one primary executor, like we said, and then one replacement if, God forbid, your executor, your primary executor predeceased you, or they weren't willing to act, they didn't want to act, or if there were kind of capacity issues, God forbid, if they had kind of any issues with regards to capacity. So we always say one primary, at least one primary replacement. So they can be lay people, like I said, or they can be professionals, i.e. solicitors, accountants. Sometimes it is better to appoint kind of a professional body, especially if you've got kind of family issues, or but definitely appoint someone that you trust and someone that is going to have that responsibility, take that responsibility on and administer your estate in accordance with your wishes. If you've got children, it's really, really important to at least consider appointing guardians. So if, God forbid, mother and father both weren't around and the child was still under 18, who would look after that child? Because automatically, no one would automatically assume a parental responsibility of that child or children. So that's really, really important. And again, like we said with the executors, have that discussion with the guardians, because it is a big responsibility. They're going to need to make sure that the children are looked after, clothed, fed, and they're going to have to assume that kind of that parental role. So again, have that conversation with your potential guardians. 100%. Think about appointing guardians if you've got minor children and that you're kind of responsible for dependents. And then we ask a little bit about the person's estate, so kind of what assets they have, so what property they have, what bank accounts, what savings they have, what's in their current account, any life insurance, pensions. And it doesn't necessarily have to just be kind of tangible physical assets or things that you can touch, i.e. properties, cash in the bank, etc. It can also be intangible assets, so things like there's a lot more kind of investments in kind of Bitcoin, cryptocurrency. You can even gift away kind of social media accounts if you've got a big social media following, or if that's kind of part of your job, etc. Then you can also gift away. It doesn't necessarily have to be a tangible, physical thing that you can touch. So we asked about the person's estate, so roughly what the value of their property is, mainly what assets they have. So we have a list of assets which we run through, stocks and shares, pensions, life policies, ISAs, things like that, just to try and see what the person's estate is worth as at the kind of today's date. The reason why we ask that is just to get a better understanding of where they stand with regards to the inheritance tax liability. So in the UK at the moment, single person has a nil rate band of 325,000. Basically, this is anything above 325,000 potentially subject to inheritance tax at 40%. Now that is a lot of money. I'm sure people would rather that go to family members, go to friends, rather than go to HMRC, go to the tax man. So that's why we always ask for just a brief indication of the person's estate, just so we can see where they sit with regards to the IHT liability, the inheritance tax liability. And if they are kind of nearing the inheritance tax threshold, then we do advise go to an accountant. Think about making gifts, or there's all sorts of other mechanisms, i.e. trusts, etc., that can be put into place to mitigate your inheritance tax liability. So that's why we ask a little bit about your estate. Tell us about what your assets you have. Alternatively, we also ask about the liabilities. So a common misconception is once a person passes away, their debts die with them. Unfortunately, that's not the case. So the executors will have a responsibility to make sure that all your liabilities, all your debts, etc., are cleared, whether that be mortgage, whether that be any loans that you've got, any credit cards, any outstanding payments that you've got to make. So they've got to make sure that that's all cleared. So we do take liabilities into account, and then we'll kind of calculate your total estate as at today's value. And then there's the question of gifts. So kind of what gifts do you want to make? So broadly speaking, there's kind of specific gifts, which are kind of gifts of specific items. It's in the name. So if you've got any kind of particular items of particular sentimental value to you, i.e. some jewellery, you get kind of wedding rings, engagement rings, or if you've inherited anything that's got kind of personal sentimental value to you that you want to gift in your will, that's fairly common. Or even it can be a personal possession such as your car. It can be your property. You can gift your property to someone. It can be anything really, a gift of a specific thing, as long as it's a specific item. Then you can gift that to whoever you wish. There's pecuniary legacy, so all that means is gifts of money. So a gift of, say, £1,000 to X, a gift of £1,000 to Y. So you can really leave as many specific gifts and as many pecuniary gifts as you like. Then there's the residue. So all that means is anything that's left over at the date of your death, anything that you hold in your estate that you haven't already gifted, that falls into your residue. So you can give that to whoever you want. So you can gift it absolutely to one person, you can gift it in equal shares to more than one person, you can gift it in percentage shares. It really is up to you, and it is really down to kind of your own wishes and your discretion at the end of the day. So that's just a little bit about wills. Another thing that we also ask, you can do gifts to charity as well. So we are actually, currently it's Will Aid Month as we speak. November is kind of the annual, it's a national charity campaign whereby Will Aid work with 9 registered charities, and we are actually participating in the scheme. It's our second year of doing it at DB Solicitors. But what happens is so in exchange, we prepare the wills, but in exchange for our legal fee, we don't actually ask for our legal fees. We ask for a donation to Will Aid, and then they'll kind of donate that money to 9 registered charities. So we do Will Aid, and then we also do a lot of other charitable will writing schemes. DANNA will be aware, we do kind of cancer research will writing scheme that runs all year round, and they raise money for cancer research. And we are part of the dementia awareness, so they raise money for kind of Alzheimer's Society. There's quite a few other schemes which we're part of as well, so that run all year round. So gifts to charity is really, really important as well, because that's probably one of the main ways that charities, make money, and they need the money at the end of the day, and it is really beneficial. So gifts to charity as well. Sometimes people often forget about that, but it is really, really important. Another thing that we also ask clients to kind of discuss in their wills, cover in their will, is whether they have any kind of funeral arrangements. Now, I hate having this conversation. It's a really uncomfortable conversation to have, but it is one that 9 times out of 10 clients will have a preference, and it is, it is important to have this conversation. So funeral preferences, whether they, prefer to be cremated, whether they prefer to be buried, and you can add in all sorts of things regarding, what kind of ceremony you'd like, where you want your ashes to be scattered, what kind of, there's things to do with organ donation. I think I had one client that wanted his body to be donated to science. So it is really, really bespoke, and you can, specify whatever you want to a degree in there. So that's another thing. And if you've got any pets, you can leave provision for pets. This is something that people often forget about. You know, they provide for their spouse, they provide for their children, you know, family members, but they often forget about their pets. So you can leave a provision for pets in there. And yeah, so that's kind of the main things that we'll cover in the will. So the will, once the grant of probate is obtained, it becomes a public document. So technically any individual can go online and download a copy of your will and kind of see what you left, you know, what was in your will. So there are certain things, i.e., you know, things that you might want to keep more personal wishes, funeral arrangements. If you want to if you have an in-depth, you know, view of what you want to happen, we can do a document alongside that known as your letter of wishes. So the will is a binding document, it's all legally valid, it's all binding, etc. Whereas the letter of wishes is more kind of guidance. So what you can do is, if you have got kind of extensive wishes, or if you have got certain preferences, instead of putting it in the will, if you've got something that's very personal to you, or even if you want to leave a message for your executors and your beneficiaries, then you could do that in a letter of wishes, because the letter of wishes won't become a public document necessarily, whereas the will becomes a public document upon probate being received. So that's just a kind of brief overview. I mean, I can carry on, I can talk about wills for a lot longer, but that's just kind of a brief overview of kind of the things that you need to think about. Definitely think about your executors. It's really, really important, people that you trust, and professional bodies as well. And if you are appointing a professional executor, strongly suggest going on the SRA website. So if they are solicitors, going on the SRA website, going on the Law Society and doing these checks, you know, making sure that the person that you're appointing to deal with your money, to deal with your property and deal with your estate, that they are regulated by the SRA, so the Solicitors Regulation Authority. We're tightly regulated by the SRA, and make sure that they're on the Law Society as well, that they're regulated by the Law Society as well, because we have had, and Dana's aware of this, we have had cases whereby, you know, people have pretended to be solicitors, or solicitors have disappeared with the money and they haven't been regulated. So it is really, really important when you are, you know, even if you're deciding to make a will, you know, trying to think about who to go to, make sure that you do your research, make sure that you do your due diligence, because when a client comes to us, we have to do, as solicitors, we have to do our due diligence to make sure that the person in front of us is who they say they are. You know, we have to do certain ID checks, etc. As Donna will be aware. But I think it works both ways. So I think even for clients, when you're thinking about, you know, making a will, or even, you know, who to instruct with regards to probate, because they are such, you know, very, very important stages of your lives. And it is really important to make sure that, you know, the person is regulated, that the solicitor is regulated personally, that the firm is regulated as well. So I'm just saying that from experience, because we have had a few cases whereby, you know, they've not used a regulated solicitor, which is fine, or with the probate they've not used a regulated solicitor and things have gone wrong. It's a lot harder to kind of, there's a lot less regulation. So definitely use a solicitor that's, you know, kind of SRA regulated, and that's on kind of the Law Society. Find a solicitor as well, find a lawyer. So if you don't make a will, your property, your estate will pass as per the intestacy rules. Now these are very kind of old-fashioned rules. They're still in place today, and it really depends on kind of what family members you've got at the date of your death, so who kind of survived you, and what the value of your estate is. So it really depends, and it's not always necessarily the way that you'd want your estate to be distributed. So that's why we always say to clients, it's not always the most tax efficient way either. There is often a lot more inheritance tax to pay, which could potentially have been, you know, even avoided or lessened if you made a will. And it's not necessarily the way that, you know, the client wants their assets to be distributed. So it is really, really important to at least consider. I know it's not a very comfortable topic to talk about, or comfortable conversation to have. It is very sensitive and it's a taboo topic, like I said, but I think it is really, really important, and it is we do need to have these conversations. So that's kind of part of the reason why I was like, no, I'm definitely going to talk about wills and probate, because there's that awareness that needs to be raised, and we need to definitely keep educating our communities and, you know, raising awareness, because, you know, there's no point acquiring all this wealth during your lifetime. I mean, we work so hard to, you know, accumulate our wealth and build our you know, our pool of estates and assets, and at the end of the day, if it's going to be subject to 40% tax, or if it's not distributed the way that we want it to, then, you know, what's the point? So I think it is really, really important. Another thing, so what I've just talked about, this only applies to kind of the law of England and Wales. But if you have got assets abroad, I know we get a lot of kind of ethnic minority clients, and they do have kind of wealth abroad. They've got property abroad, they've got money abroad, or they've got land abroad. It is really important to make sure that you've got a kind of England and Wales will, which covers your estate and your assets in England and Wales. But then it's equally important to make sure that you've got a will abroad. You know, you need to appoint an attorney or a solicitor in the country where you've got your assets to kind of deal with those assets, because jurisdictionally we are only able to deal with whatever assets you have in England and Wales, and our jurisdiction doesn't extend to abroad. So it is really important, if you have got assets, I know there's a lot of international people, you know, a lot of international viewers watching this. If you have got assets abroad, it's really, really important to make sure that those assets are dealt with as well. I think it's easy to forget that, you know, this will only apply to whatever you have in England and Wales. It doesn't, you know, unfortunately, it doesn't apply to assets that you may have abroad or anything like that. So it's really, really important to make sure that you get both wills in England and Wales and in abroad sorted as well, and that they both work together, that they go hand in hand. There's nothing in your English will that contradicts, that could contradict, say, Pakistani law, and there's nothing in your Pakistan will that contradicts English law. So I think that is really, really important as well. So that's just a brief overview about wills. Like I said, I could talk forever and ever, but a little bit about probate. So once a person passes away, then the executors can need to apply for what we call a grant of probate. Now, without the grant of probate, they won't necessarily be able to deal with the assets. They won't be able to transfer the property. So if in my will I've said that I want my property to pass to X, unless the executor obtains a grant of probate, in 9 times out of 10, they won't be able to transfer that property. They won't be able to deal with my assets in accordance with the will. So probate process is very... It's not as complicated as it seems. I think to kind of lay people, it can seem quite complicated, but all it is essentially is just asking for, you know, what their details are, what they had at their date of death, you know, what their assets were, what their liabilities were, complete the probate application. I think it's all done online these days anyways, and then completing the inheritance tax form, any inheritance tax, getting that paid off, and then the probate registry will be able to release what we call a document called a grant of probate, which gives the executors authority to then kind of transfer the property over, to deal with the estate, to deal with the assets in accordance with the will. So wills and probate really go hand in hand. I remember when I was learning about wills and probate on the LPC, you know, our lecturer said to us that the executor has a duty to collect, administer and distribute. So it was a mnemonic, we learn it as CAD. So they have to collect in the assets, whether that be physically collecting them in, you know, cashing in stocks and shares, you know, going to notifying the banks, notifying, you know, mortgage companies, etc., making the relevant notifications to HMRC and other government bodies if they were in receipt of any kind of benefits, etc. Administering the estate, so as in applying for the grant of probate, making sure that that process was all done correctly, you know, making sure that if any inheritance tax is due, that that's paid off, making sure that the relevant forms are completed, sent off to the relevant organisations, i.e. probate registry gets the grant probate application, HMRC gets the relevant HMRC, the IHT form, and then distributing the estate. So, you know, with whatever's written in the will, they'll ensure that, you know, those wishes are carried out, and that if I want my property to go to X, that my property does end up going to X. So that's a little bit about probate. So I think I've covered most of it now, unless anyone had any questions or wanted me to clarify anything.
Wow, that was...
I just thought that you guys
Until you said you could talk about it the whole night, you know, it would take you a long time. But you were quick, but there was too much to digest. No. But yeah, initially you were mentioning about wills. There's single will, married will, is marriage will?
Mirror
wills.
Mirror,
So
mirror, like a mirror. Okay,
mirror,
single
yes.
will, and then mirror will. What is a mirror will again?
So mirror wills say if there's a married couple, they both have their own separate will, but the terms will be mirrored. So let's say husband makes a will, wife makes a will. Husband's will, it says everything is to go to the wife upon my passing. Wife's will, everything's to go to the husband on my passing. And then once they both pass, everything's to go to the children. So you'll have your own separate wills, but they'll be mirrored. So that's where that term comes from.
Okay, you mentioned that this is a public document, right? It becomes a public document. So, for example, the stars, the celebrities, the rich people, do we know how they, how do you call it, disposed of their, or what was the contents of their wills?
I guess we could find out. Let me find out. Who do you want to know?
Really, you can, for example, I don't know who, but for example, any rich person, you know, and we're curious,
Which
who did they leave this?
Let me do a bit of research. I'll email you a copy of their will.
No, is it really true? Is it public document?
I think my 2 pence on that, Mr. Laragan, if you're trying to find out, kung sometimes, you're trying to find out the net worth of a person, uh, just a will may not necessarily, just be the complete picture of that. Because you hear of this trust, you hear of maybe some other assets, maybe it's within. I don't know, Farida, you may be able to, because I've heard this with other that they may just be a beneficiary. This is an observation from family law, wherein sometimes there may be a beneficiary of a trust, and it may just form part of their residual assets. So in terms of finding out the net worth of a person, some people are quite clever about it when they do asset planning, so they're able to set out their wealth in such a way that it's very, very tax friendly is probably the term. But yes, I suppose, Farida, if it says it is a public document, it is a public document. But yun lang yung caveat. The caveat is that there are a lot of these trust instruments, a lot of this other ways of holding money, and that may not. If you really just want to figure out the net worth of someone famous, it might not be the
sorry for that. So there's no total access that there. You would just probably more or less have an idea of the wealth, but not necessarily individually where each asset has been given to. Not really.
Yeah, that's fine. So it like Dana said, if it is kind of wrapped up in trust and things, which is what I think the richer people tend to do, and celebrities, etc., tend to do, then it is a bit more difficult. But you're kind of lay person, there will becomes a public document.
There will be
and then
some ordinary, was probably have a couple of houses and not really the super rich who would be able to hide it.
For you.
I'll do that digging for you. My homework.
Okay, all right. Okay, so you were mentioning single will, mirror wills. Okay, you were talking about potential executors, beneficiaries, guardians. So these are people that are more or less in the picture when you talk about wills and probate. So you even said it's a taboo subject, because you're talking about
it's very
something.
sensitive. And I really struggled at the beginning to kind of. It was really hard to kind of come to terms with it and ask people these questions. So, what are your funeral preferences? What would you like to happen to your body after you pass away? And it to this day, it is uncomfortable. But 9 times out of 10, people do have a preference, and it's something that needs to be talked about a lot more. I think wills and probate is definitely it's a sensitive topic, but we need to raise more awareness about it. Yeah.
Well, this is actually a very interesting topic because you were talking about pets. We talk about the spouses, the children, and you got pets. So wow, it's encompassing. I mean, it's really wide ranging, encompassing. You can just think about anything actually to give.
Every will is so bespoke. This is one thing that I love about this area of law. No 2 wills will be the same. No 2 client circumstances will be the same. Every will be bespoke. And I remember I had one lady come, I think literally within the last few weeks. And I was like, was there anything else? And she was like, I've totally forgotten about my dogs, my pets. And I was like, yes, you can provide for your pets. She thought it was a silly question, but you really can. And rules are so bespoke. I mean, no 2 rules are the same. And it's a really bespoke area of law. That's, I think, why I enjoy it so much.
So the person doing it, for example, who's doing the will, and eventually when they pass away, this is actually their will, what they want to their wishes to happen.
Yeah.
And even their funeral preferences. But would they also say, for example, okay, if I pass away, ahead of my dog, can you give my dog also a proper burial or something like that? Can you go, there's a pet cemetery. So all of these things, are provided for in a way. You can. You said no 2 wills are the same. What is the weirdest without the confidentiality without divulging? What would be the weirdest? I don't know. You've done this for about a year now, right? Is there a weird, or how would you say? What would be quite interesting that people bequeath to probably their loved ones by way of a will? Just we're just
Oh, I've
curious.
had all sorts. I had probably one of the most prominent
Examples.
ones I can remember. He was, I think he was a millionaire. Estranged, so he was divorced, estranged from his son, estranged from his daughter. And what he ended up doing was, I was like, so, where do you want your estate to go? And he was like, oh, I wanted to go to 5 charities, and one of them was actually a cat charity. So it's something that you hear about in films, or, you don't actually think you come across it in practice. But he did actually end up giving probably I think it was the bulk of his estate. I think it was something like 25% of his estate to a cat charity. So
How much? How
you get
much?
all sorts of weird.
Wow.
25% of his estate, which was, I think it was around £1 million that
Okay.
he had.
You say estranged, for example, you're estranged with your son, your daughter, or even whoever.
Yeah.
So these people can be left out in your will, in his or her will. So they can't do anything.
Yes.
They can't go to assail this will, go to court, say where the children
This is where
who are entitled to some, inheritance. So
Exactly. You
if
want
I hate-
to freedom will have yeah. Yeah. The freedom
so-
will
Yes, so
probably have an
potentially,
if you hate your son, you hate your daughter, you don't want to leave anything,
Yeah.
they cannot question your will. Could they?
no. Well, what they can do, provided that they were kind of, so it depends. If it's a spouse that you've disinherited from your will, then they can potentially bring a claim. You have to, under the Inheritance Provision for Family Independence, I think 1984. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dana. So what they can do, they can apply to a court.
So there's still hope.
So they can
So your
bring.
dad hates you,
Yeah.
and then it comes to these wills. Okay, sometimes we see in the movies. Here comes the lawyer. The children, the siblings are there in front. And then here comes the lawyer with his how do you call this? His attaché case. How do you call that?
Okay.
Briefcase. Okay, briefcase.
Briefcase.
And then he opens it, and then he reads it. Okay, the ring will go up. Is that how we are? Do you hold these papers? You as we, for example, the lay people, that's how we see it in movies. Is that how it is?
It's
You
not that
have a
dramatic
copy of
in
the
real
will
life.
in
It's
your
not that
office
dramatic
because,
in
huh?
real life, and I'm sure Dana will agree with me. She's laughing. It's not that glamorous. No, it's not that dramatic. Unfortunately, in real life, I wish it was. I mean, that would be quite some drama. But not.
So that's only in the movies. You want somebody with that would gather
exaggeration.
everybody. Here is now. I'm reading the will now, and then one of them will be disinherited, and will raise. So
I think it's a good storyline. It's good for suspense and drama, but it doesn't necessarily happen like that in real life. I would think.
okay.
Not in the UK anyway.
Not in the
No,
UK.
not yet. I'll come
You
across that
mentioned
before.
the will that they're going to be preparing is actually for properties that are within England and Wales. So if they have a property in Scotland, in the Northern Ireland,
Yep.
and somewhere else outside of the UK,
Philippines,
that would
yeah.
be independent. That would be a separate will, right?
Yeah, so they need to get a separate will done. So if you had a property in Scotland, you need to get a Scottish lawyer to get to cover that property. So we only have jurisdiction to deal with whatever assets you have in England.
So Farida Ahmed of Deo Volento Solicitors, can you help people? I've got a property as well in Scotland. You wouldn't. You're just confined to England and Wales, right?
Yeah, just confined to England. But we'd always advise, we always ask if you've got any assets abroad or outside of England and Wales, 100%, seek legal advice from a qualified solicitor, qualified attorney in that country, and they'll be able to deal and assist you accordingly. So we only have jurisdiction in
Alright.
England and Wales, yeah.
These are properties in England and Wales, right? No. For
Yeah, so whatever you have in England-
you've got a chalet in Switzerland or wherever it is. So can that be included? I'd
Yeah.
like to give my property in Switzerland in that document, the last will and testament or whatever you call it, to my son Peter. But the property is in Switzerland. Can you do that? Can that be binding in England and Wales?
No, so it needs to be dealt with in Switzerland by a kind of legal professional or solicitor in Switzerland. We wouldn't have jurisdiction to deal with that. So whatever assets they have in the UK, in England and Wales specifically, we'd be able to deal with those, but we wouldn't be able to deal with kind of assets abroad, assets outside of our jurisdiction, I'm afraid. And this is why we always ask, if you've got property abroad, assets abroad, then always seek legal advice in that country. Make sure that you get a will drawn up, because every jurisdiction has their own kind of rules regarding inheritance. So we just don't have jurisdiction, I'm afraid. So yeah.
You mentioned about bitcoins, for example. These are online accounts. you've got Binance, you've got Coinbase.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard of
Yeah.
these.
Oh, I don't know.
Do
How
you
it
have
works. It's too
access to that?
complicated.
I mean, do you have technically? Can you dispose of it? Dispose in the sense that this can be included within England and Wales. So if the will maker, whoever your client, private client, would say, I'd like to bequeath my Coinbase account or my Binance account or my eToro account or my free trade account. These are all actually online, and they're trading in Bitcoins and stocks and everything. They are included. Can your
Yeah,
client
absolutely.
include? Oh, okay. They can. Okay.
Yeah, so it doesn't necessarily, like I said before, it doesn't necessarily have to be kind of tangible assets, physical assets that you can touch. A lot more people are investing in kind of Bitcoin, cryptocurrency. I don't know how it works. I've not got the slightest clue where to start, but people have acquired quite a lot of wealth. They're investing regularly. So it is something that we're seeing more and more. And then also kind of social media accounts, people are choosing to give those. So we are starting to see a move away from kind of physical, tangible assets, things that you can touch, like property, bank accounts, etc. People are starting to give more intangible assets, i.e. kind of this Bitcoin. And we're in a very digital society, so it's going to be interesting to see kind of where we get with that. But yeah, I've started to see that a lot more regularly these days, which is good.
Okay, so your clients have to update their wills every now and then. For example, now they're in good terms with their beneficiary. Say they're not anymore, so they want to change that. Can they change it, and how often can they change it?
Absolutely, 100% you need to. I mean, we've got a case on at the moment, Donna, where beneficiary and executor aren't necessarily on speaking terms, so it is a lot harder. We always say kind of at least review your will every kind of 5 to 10 years, or as soon as there's kind of a milestone, so when you get, if you were getting divorced, if you were to get married. Interesting fact, not a lot of people know this, but a marriage actually revokes any formal wills. So let's say if, there's a couple that are cohabiting, they make wills today, they get married tomorrow. Because they've got married tomorrow, their wills will automatically become invalid, and a lot of people don't know this. So I get a lot of unmarried couples that are cohabiting come to me, and unless you've got a specific clause in the will which says that this will is made in contemplation of my marriage to X, then subsequent marriage that you have, a marriage that you enter into, and I think it's the same for civil partnership, I'm not entirely sure, but that will become invalid just because of the fact that you've got married. So that's another thing that people don't necessarily realise. And if you were to become, get married, or you've got more children, if your executor or beneficiary passes away, we say to review your will every kind of couple of years, or as soon as there's kind of a milestone or a kind of big factor in your life. It's always important to at least have something in place, but then we advise review regularly and update regularly as well, especially if the executor and beneficiary are on talking terms.
All right, okay. Yeah, may importante guys. I'm sorry, I'm talking in Tagalog.
Yeah.
So yung beneficiary, executor, yan ang mga words dito. Guardian, mga ganun, no? Maraming words eh.
Exactly.
I want to go back into that will that you said about they were cohabiting, they were initially having individual wills. Now everything would change when they got married, right? So there's something, but I'd like to be clarified on that. But first of all, let's give way to some questions from our viewers, no? Sige, direct, go. What's the question?
Shall I ask?
Oh yes,
Question
attorney.
from Fernandez. Question, Mom Farida, is an executor the same as power of attorney? Yes.
Well, yes.
No, so this is another misconception. People often get the term will and power of attorney confused. They are two entirely separate legal documents. So will only come into life, once the person passes away. They make it during their lifetime, but it only comes to life once the person passes away. A power of attorney is a separate document. Again, the person makes it during their lifetime. It's only kind of alive or valid during the person's lifetime. But a power of attorney, so you can appoint, attorneys to make decisions on your behalf if you were to become incapacitated, whether that be kind of through dementia or an illness or through a stroke, or God forbid, you were involved in an accident and you weren't able to make decisions for yourself. So it's a very good question, Oliver. A lot of people, get confused between the terminology, but there are two separate documents, two separate legal documents, and they're both just as important as each other. So yeah, I hope that answers that question. They're not the same thing. They're both
Not
entirely
the same.
separate legal.
Power of attorney, not the same as executor. Okay.
No,
Let's make
totally
way for another
separate.
question. Sige, go. Yes. There you are. Okay.
Oh, Edgar, yeah.
Edgar Duway.
Yes.
Okay. Tanong.
Yeah.
Yan, sige. Pakibasa,
Yeah.
read mo, attorney,
Sige po.
for the benefit of...
Tanong is question, by the way, in
Yes,
Filipino, Farida.
Yes.
Is there a value to be considered when it comes to making a will? Because when we had ours, I specifically told the solicitor to give my Omega Seamaster watch to my son when I died, and he laughed at me. I was offended, so I asked Irene to continue on my behalf. That's
Okay,
yeah.
wow.
Is there a value? I don't think so. But Farina will give.
So it's entirely up to you. What we say is kind of as soon as a person turns 18 and they've got the requisite legal capacity to make a will, you should at least consider making a will. And there's no kind of minimum baseline. We don't say, oh, you know, if you've got a property worth X value, or if you've got bank account savings worth X value. It really doesn't depend on. There's no kind of minimum value. And I'm actually quite surprised and quite shocked that you had that experience. I'm really quite that's not good. I'm sorry that you had to go through that, Edgar. But there's no minimum value, so it's just when you kind of feel that the circumstances are right, when you feel like you've got, you know, something to give, or you know, it's really down to you. There's no kind of upper or lower limit really. It's just down to personal preference.
Okay, we have a next question. Sige. Okay, sige, tuloy pa natin. Direct para tuloy lang natin. Si ano pa rin, si Edgar. Sige, okay. Edgar, ano yung sinasabi?
Edgar, do I?
Ano
If
yun?
let's say my
makita kasi maliit
property in
Ay, after pala nakita ko dito sa gilid. Okay,
yeah, he's
go ahead.
saying if let's say my property in Cornwall is still on loan, siguro mortgage, I think a mortgage,
Oh,
and
okay,
I
so-
died, and I put it on a will for my son. Will he inherit the loan or the mortgage? I think that's what he
Yes,
says.
yeah, okay.
Assuming I don't have insurance, which is a life insurance for the property, to pay it off when I died. Frida?
Okay, so this is similar to what I said earlier. So common misconception is once you pass away, once a person passes away, people think that, oh, you know, I've passed away, my debts will die with me. Unfortunately, that's not the case. So whatever you've got, whether it be a mortgage, whether it be a loan on credit cards, HB agreements, etc., whatever liabilities that you've got, that's going to fall on your estate to clear those. So a mortgage, the lender will have a legal charge of that property, so it is going to need to get paid off in some way, whether that be kind of through a remortgage or whether your son sells the property before, you know, that property can be transferred over. So all your liabilities that you've got, you know, they're going to need to be cleared. They don't automatically, you know, die with the deceased. So they are still going to need to get cleared. That loan is going to need to get cleared some way or another. So, yeah.
But there are cases actually, Farida, I don't know if you're aware of this. I have some friends who, for example, their husband died, you know, these are spouses, and they've got this mortgage on their houses, and then that gets extinguished.
That's right.
Because of probably an insurance.
It's a life
So that's-
insurance.
life
Yeah, it's a
insurance,
life
so that's
insurance.
covered,
Sure.
yes.
Exactly. Life
So
insurance.
something like that.
Yeah,
That's
it was-
possible.
I think
Yes. Okay.
yeah.
So you were talking about if there's a minimum or there's earlier when I think Edgar was. Teka muna, has he got another question?
Mary Pimentel.
Has he got another question?
Video.
Just take a minute. All right. So okay. All right. Pakibasa attorney yung question niya, no? Sige.
That was the current question. I don't know if he's got
Meron
another
pa ba?
question.
Okay, all right. So, okay. Akala ko ma-off ako ni attorney. Okay, no. One question doon sa ano. Ang question ko lang is, okay, there is an inheritance tax and there is a limit. Did you say 325,000 or 355,000? I didn't hear it because it was kind of quick when you said it. 325. So all assets, including the dog, if the dog costs about $5,000, whatever. 325 or 355. Let me just clarify it.
325.
Okay, so 325. So you can have assets all the way up to 325 and be tax free.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah, so if
anything
it's
above
single person,
325 now incurs a tax liability, right?
Potentially. So it depends on a couple
Why?
of things. It depends on your marriage status. So if you're married, then potentially what you could do is you can transfer the unused nil rate band. So essentially, married couples can.
You can transfer if you're unmarried or married.
If you're married, so if
If
you're
you're
married,
married,
you're in
okay,
a
you can
single-
transfer.
Yeah.
You can transfer what?
Yep. So you can transfer the unused nil rate band. I understand it's quite technical, so
you,
I'll try and break it down.
you can transfer the unused band. What's that? Unused tax rate band?
Unused tax
Nil
rate
rate.
band, yeah, so you can pass up
What
to
does
the
it
nil
mean?
rate band.
What does it mean?
So it means that you can transfer, so you can pass up to 650 free of tax. But if you've got a property which is passing to your direct,
Is that both of you should die? No?
yeah. So say I pass away,
Okay.
and then once
Your
my
spouse-
spouse passes away, then my nil rate band transfers to my spouse. If that makes sense.
Sorry, okay. So 325 is the maximum that will be
Yeah.
tax-free. Okay? Say your husband passed
Yeah.
away, although I don't know if you have a husband, but say, for example, your husband passed away. So what happens? The 325 goes on to you. Now you have 325 again? So it's 650?
Yes,
Is that
so
what-
potentially it could pass over, so it could transfer over to me. If he leaves everything to me and he passes away, then I can technically transfer over his unused nil rate band. I know it's a lot of legal jargon, but I think that Donna knows what I'm talking about.
would that mean that you have nothing?
No, so
You have
No.
there's 325. What's 325? 325 of the assets of your husband. Is it independent of you, of the wife? So is this not
yeah, so
conjugal?
potentially everything he has. Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead, please. Is it conjugal?
So if everything's
Okay.
yeah.
This is the lag that
Whereas
we're
this-
talking about.
That's fine. So assuming that, my husband passes away, he leaves everything in his will to me, which is kind of what normally happens in mirror wills. He leaves everything to me, then I can potentially transfer his unused nil rate band because everything passes to me. Things that pass between spouses and civil partners passes free of tax. So I can transfer his unused nil rate band, and that pushes my nil rate band up to 650 rather than 325.
That confuses me. I couldn't get my head around this unused tax.
Mr.
Well,
Laragan, it only
Paano
Yeah,
yun, attorney? Sorry, we have a bit of translation. So paano yun? 325 for the guy, it's passed on to you, whatever he has, whatever it goes on to you, as long as it's 325. Anything beyond that, then, and then now, you're talking about unused. Paano yun? Parang, tapos naging, it now doubles it to 625, 650. Paano yun?
So,
650, yeah.
halimbawa 325, 325, and
Okay.
as long as you pass it on, as long as you pass the 325 to the spouse, so hindi mo nagamit
Yeah.
yung 325 mo na nil rate band. You haven't, if I really can understand my Tagalog now, you haven't used your nil rate band. 325, pinasa mo sa
Nil
asawa
rate
mo.
band or new rate band?
Nil.
Nil, zero, nil rate band, di ba?
Nil, zero. Yes, that's zero.
Oh,
That's
okay.
right. So yung zero rate, your tax rate is 325. Sabi mo, I'm not gonna use, meron akong libreng 325 yung use up ko, yung kumbaga, ito yung tax free ko. I'm not gonna use that kasi bibigay ko sa asawa ko. Parang isipin mo voucher yan, 325 voucher, binigay mo sa asawa mo. Yung asawa mo yung gagamit ng relief na yan. It seems like a relief. So if you pass it on to your spouse now has 650,000 pounds na
Yeah.
na allowance kumbaga before they start paying inheritance tax. Is that a bit clear? Now for you, the question is, what if it's $1 million? What if it's $1 million? Will the whole million be? You talked about your millionaire client. Will the million be? Is the million 125,000, isn't it?
So potentially spouses and civil partners, they can pass up to 1 million tax-free. Now there's the additional residential nil rate band, which is an extra 175k each. So that's what I was going to come on to. I think we got a bit confused with the nil rate band. But just to cut a long story short, if you've got a residence, qualifying residence, provided you're married and in a civil partnership, and provided that your residence passes to direct descendants, so are your children, grandchildren. Then there's an additional 175k each. So again, similar to how the nil rate band transfers over, spouses or civil partners can pass up to 1 million free of tax. So it's quite a lot. It's
Wow.
quite generous.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we saying this is one of the advantages of getting married? So somehow this benefit or this thing that you're talking about nil tax rate is not something that people who live in together or can get. So the advantage
I think
is
it's way up the pros and cons. Does this pro of getting married weigh up against all the cons of getting married? I don't know.
right. Yeah, no, but we're talking about the advantages. I was about to say that because you mentioned about this, people now there might be an increase in marriages, because of this episode for tonight. Although of course you have to weigh it. Should I marry this person or not? Should I marry this person because of the advantage that Farida Ahmed was telling us about this nil tax rate, and it carries on and carry over. So yeah, well, it's
not a major Mr. Laragan. So up to $1 million, you can transfer tax-free to your spouse. And yung allowance mo na 325,000, that is your tax-free or nil rate band, that also passes to your spouse, which means na if it goes on to direct descendants, it's higher. They have a higher.
Yeah.
Why? Because you add on the 175 for a son, for a daughter. Is that what you're saying? You mentioned about 175,000 for children.
The extra for just for the property, the main residence. Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned about 1 million. Is there a chance that
land.
even 1 million will be tax free? I think did you say it in passing earlier that there are strategies to even?
Yeah. So married couples.
Okay.
Yeah. They can up to $1 million, so their estate can be up to 1 million, and it can be tax free generous compared to the 325 that our single gents have. So yeah.
All right. Probably because of the show tonight, nobody will
The
be
benefits,
single.
the tax benefits of married.
Some of the benefits of being married, in terms of
Well,
tax.
People don't get married, don't get any divorces or children matters, are we, Donna?
Okay, wow.
I think
All right.
this
Well, we
is
could probably have a
topic
part 2,
between the
Farida.
tax
You're gonna make,
benefits
aside from the beauty that you have shown to everybody and the smile, they're gonna be, they want another episode of having you and talk about this again.
Oh,
This is quite
I'd love to come
interesting.
back.
Yeah, this is very interesting. You said you could talk about it the whole night, but of course we don't have the whole night. But we're gonna probably cut it into episodes or Farida episode 1 together with her. Next, Farida again, Farida again. Yeah, this is quite
benefits of
interesting.
getting married versus the cost of divorce.
Oh wow, cost of divorce. Okay, now can you be advisors, guidance counsel? How do you call it, counselors? Because you have to check now. Okay, you guys are having the benefits of this, this tax things, but divorce. These are the repercussions. So I don't think. Well, do you also deal on divorce, Farida?
Yeah, so funny was I've literally just in the past 3 weeks, last month, I've actually started helping Donna out of families. So, yeah, we need more children in court. Yeah, people don't get married, we're not going to get those through, are we?
Well, fantastic. Farida, we're gonna have you again. I guess. Okay,
I'd
it's
love to
already
do that.
almost 8, but yeah, it's been a wonderful session with you. Do you run actually? Do you run? Are you?
I don't know, I don't run. Not into my fitness at all.
Swimming? Are you a fast swimmer, a fast runner, a fast in anything?
No,
All
swimming,
right.
I'm afraid.
Yeah, well, but we enjoyed it, guys. We enjoyed it. Yung mga viewers natin, our viewers, I'm sure you enjoyed it because it's really interesting. It's really, this, she said it's probably taboo to talk about it, but this is very important. You talk about funeral preferences, but this is the reality of life, diba? You talk about this. So, ayan, even your social media account, you can give it, no? You can mitigate your tax
That's right.
by consulting with a lawyer. You can mitigate your tax liabilities. Is that also one of the advantages of say going to
Potentially, yeah.
to solicitors?
We're not necessarily qualified to be tax advised, but yeah.
Yeah, okay. Not tax refund, but you're trying to more or less strategies on how to bring down the
Absolutely. Yeah.
if it goes beyond 325 or if it goes beyond 650. Okay.
Beyond the
Well,
1 million, yeah.
maraming salamat sa Farida. You might want to say hello to our kababayans or say goodnight to them. How can they see you?
Yes, thank you so much
You
for
shouldn't
having
give
me.
your
It's been a
social media
pleasure.
account, although it's one of those you can also, put in your will, right? Your social media account. Are you active on social media,
Absolutely, yeah.
Farida?
My social media accounts in my will. Yes, I have, although I'm not very active on that though. No.
Right. But you mentioned that you know you can actually put in your will anything. Okay, well, thank you very much. You might want to
Yes,
say
thank you.
hello. How can they contact you, for example? And you know, not social media. I mean,
Yeah, so you can
your advice in terms of what's a probate. Okay, where, so they want the solicitors. So they look for you and Attorney Dana.
yes, it's so 01234350244. We'd be more than happy to assist you if there's any kind of will inquiries, probate, powers of attorney, or even family matters as well. Now I'm helping Dana in family, so it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I said to Dana, I try to tune in not every Tuesday, but most Tuesdays. A regular watcher, and I think it's a really good what Dana's doing. And yeah, so thank you so much for having me, and I'd love to come back for part 2. The saga continues.
Yes, you're most welcome. This is not the first and the last time that we're going to be having you. You're the topic that you are more or less the thing that you've been doing for more than a year now is very interesting. And yeah, and anything can be put in your will. So that's quite interesting. No two wills are the same. So maraming salamat, no? Yeah, I would like to see the beauty again, the beauty and the brains of you. That's
Thank you so much. Good night,
So
everyone.
salamat. Good night. Good
Thank you.
night. Ayan,
Thank
si
you for the
Farida.
brilliant job.
Oh, galing naman, no? I'm sure a lot of people have learned, you know, something tonight. It's a long, sabi nga, di ba? It will talk long time to talk about it. Pero yung mga
Huge
some
topic.
things, no?
Yeah.
Nakukuha natin. May mga nakukuha tayo. Oo.
Exactly.
Pwede rin sa
Exactly.
charity,
Oo.
pwede ipamigay din sa
And
will.
lalo na sa atin.
Oo.
Lalo na sa community natin, Mr. Laragan, kasi hindi tayo sanay ang Filipino community with making wills. Parang tabu sa atin na ay, papatayin mo na ba ako? Kaya mo ako
Oo nga,
pinapagawa
parang,
na.
di ba? Parang morbid pag-usapan yung pag namatay ka na. Di ba? Oo. Pero one quick question lang. Pag namatay na walang will, di ba, intestate, pero may mga anak andyan nakikita, can they go after it? Mararemedyohan ba? Can this be remedied?
May certain na order na follow pag intestate. So if walang wills, balik yon kung ano yung intestacy rule. There's a certain order kung kanino muna yung first stop. I can't remember on the top of my head kung magkano I think yung half is mapupunta sa up to a certain sum mapupunta sa asawa, and then it will be divided up into the children. So hindi ka pwedeng gumawa ng will, but you're gonna have to follow the intestacy order, yung order of beneficiaries.
Okay, question. Another last question. Is it possible, for example, yung magbibigay yung kung sino yung how do you call it? Yung naggumawa ng will. Hate niya yung anak niya, babae, hate niya rin yung anak niya lalaki. Pwede ba niyang bigyan sa will biglang napagtripan lang niya o gusto niya, bigyan niya ng will yung kanyang cleaner at saka yung driver niya?
Yeah, absolutely.
Walang mahahabol yung dalawa, yung anak na lalaki, anak na babae, walang mahahabol?
Yun yung sinasabi namin na exception. As long as hindi niya dependence yun. Kasi kung dependence, yun lang ang
hindi, may edad na. When you say
makakahabol
dependence
sila.
ba, maski may edad na walang trabaho, ganun ba yun? Or dependent would be young children?
No. Kahit may edad, pero halimbawa, dependent na, pero binibigyan mo pa rin 200 pounds, 300 pounds a month, o andun pa rin nakatira sa'yo. Dependence in that sense. It's a financial, assumed responsibility. Meron po kaming legal definition ng dependency. When the deceased assume responsibility over you, ito yung anak mo na humihingi every month mo pinapadalhan, or nakatira sa sayo, then that's a form of dependency. And it has to be very recent. Hindi yung dependent ko 5 years ago. It's within the last 2 years. So very, very exact yung wording. Kung hindi ka sakop ng wording na yon, wala ka talagang wala kang chance para masali sa mga beneficiary. And yes, pwede niyang ibigay sa cleaner niya, sa best friend niya and whoever it is that
Wow,
that he
ganun
wants
pala
to.
dito, no? Ganun pala talaga. Kaya, yun nga, strange.
Madami
Marami, okay. Well,
cases na mga inheritance act cases. We'll talk
yan
about
dapat
it
siguro
one day.
pag-usapan natin lagi, attorney. Yan ang pag-usapan natin
Yung-
lagi
yung
siguro.
mga-
Di, maganda rin yan, di ba?
Among,
Di ba, quite interesting. Di ba? Kasi pati aso, pati charity, di ba, bibigay mo, yung kwento ni kanila, Farida, 25% binigay niya sa was given to charity. Imagine mo yun, di ba?
I'll tell you kung sino yung parating mag-challenge ng will na dependent daw sila. Illegitimate na, either yung may mga mistresses na hindi alam ng family na minemaintain pala nung namatay, or mga hindi alam na may illegitimate child or may merong someone outside na minemaintain sila. Normally, adult children na hindi alam ng first family na minemaintain. So that's the usual na nag-a-apply under dun sa act na yon, Inheritance Provision for Dependents Act.
Sa parang hindi nakakahiya, di ba? Yung tatay ko nyari, marami yung may flings pala, may mga anak sa labas. No, sikretong ginawa niya. So actually, hindi na siya mahihiya. Dahil once na namatay siya, hindi niya alam, wala na siyang kahihiyan, di ba? So, di ba?
Lalabas talaga.
Lalabas pero wala na siya, patay na siya, di ba? Oo, yun na lang mga...
Patay na siya.
Doon na lang magiging chismisan na, may anak pala sa labas yan. Si eto ngayon, kasama sa will. Oo, di ba?
May may isang kaso, hindi naman ganun sabi niya, ewan ko bakit hindi niya pinakilala yung girlfriend niya na, minemaintain niya, sinusuportahan niya, hindi alam ng kapatid niya, 20 years na pala.
Wow.
So, parang,
diba? May ganyan story. Real life true story yan, ha?
That's the side of litigation ng probate. Yun yung ginagawa, yun yung sa trabaho na pupunta na sa departamento ko pag gano'n na yung usapan. And that's probably one of the more siguro you'd say more flavorful yung mga kaso. The same as Farida, I can talk a whole day about it because isa yun sa favorite areas ng law ko. And probably next week we'll talk about that kasi napasarap ang kwentuhan dito. Oo,
maganda yun. Very interesting. Ayun nga lang, sa dami na sinasabi, hindi ko lang ma-pick up Kaya lang, some of them, alam mo naman, may notes ako pagka meron tayong show dahil maski pa kina-clarify ko also for my benefit but for the benefit of our viewers, diba? Maski pa they can take away something for every session that we have. Okay, well, I guess para na tayo, attorney, no? Sige, yung mga regular spills mo, yan, how do they contact you? At baka may mga final greetings ka. Go ahead, please.
Well, you can contact us, myself, at d.quinto at dvsolicitors.com or call us at 01234-225-188. Again, it's d.quinto at dvsolicitors.com or 01234-225-188. Thank you so much, Direk Pao, for sorting out today. Maraming salamat sa iyong valiant efforts. And of course, Mr. Laragan, masayang-masaya po kami sa inyong pagbabalik. Welcome back. At miss na miss po namin kayo. So, thank you so much, everyone. Maraming salamat sa pagsubaybay. As usual, keep safe kasi tumataas na naman ang mga cases. So, keep safe tayo para wala tayong lockdown. At malapit na Pasko. So, yeah, it'll be, hopefully, it'll be a bit more open December. It will be good.
Ayan.
Lapit na.
Tama. Netherlands and some other countries, medyo tumataas ang COVID ulit, no? They're planning on doing some lockdowns, no? Sa Netherlands. Okay. Now, the big companies, have this, yung itong mga web services, no? Amazon, AWS is huge, talaga huge. Napakagaling ng paggagawa ni Jeff Bezos na aside from the Amazon na nakikita ninyong regular na nag-order kayo, books and anything, na parang online anything anything you can buy on but they also have their web service. Kalaban nila yung Microsoft Azure. Pati Google Cloud. The reason why, ito nabasa ko kasi may news ako rito, from Seeking Alpha. Ito yung mga information about mga stocks or anything, no. Website outages including Snapchat, Spotify linked to Google Cloud problem. So, meron reason pala. So, kaya kami na late. Na tiyempo, may problema si Google Cloud something. Ayun. Kasi, yung links natin, kinukuha natin sa cloud yan eh. Mapa, StreamYard, or anything. A link is given and it goes to a Google, Google browser. Yon ang reason. So, ayun. Nagkaroon ng outages na naman. Ayan. Okay, well, I guess it's time for us to say goodbye. Well, ako'y natutuwa, na-excite. Ayoko rin talaga mag-miss na magkasama tayo dahil iba rin yung interaction natin, no? And it's also, nami-miss tayo at attorney, hindi lang, minsan nagtataka sila, asan na ba si Sunny? Asan na ba sila, di ba? And, ano lang ho, medyo, it happens on those rare occasions lang. So, yeah, thank you very much for being with us. So, I guess magpapaalam na kami, no? Sana ay maging makabuluhan, educational, at fun yung ating gabi, no? Sa nakakita ng Legal Advice Corner, meron pa tayong batian session. Siyempre, I would like to acknowledge yung ating mga viewers na nanonood and who have been part of our family since day one. And the family has grown, so meron tayong mga bagong friends. And now, which used to be us here in the UK, now we have viewers from Austria, from what do you call this, from Portugal, and so on and so forth, no? Ayan, may narinig ko ang ingay sa sound direct. Okay. Well, I guess it's time for us to say goodbye. Sa ngalan ni Attorney DANNA Quinto, at saka sa ngalan din ng aming very special trainee solicitor guest na si Farida Ahmed. Ito po si Sonny LARAGAN nagsasabing thank you ho sa walang sawang pagsubaybay dito sa palatuntunan natin ito. Let's do it again next Tuesday for another happy Tuesday. So till then, take care, God bless, and good night. Stay safe. Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Sa World Remit, naiintindihan namin ang iyong paglalakbay. Na minsan, kailangan lumayo upang makamit ang tagumpay. With Way Save More, when you send more, World Remit is here for you. So you can be there for them.